Got no audio. I can't hear anything. I'll be back.
Is it working out?
Yeah.
Awesome. I think it was on my side. Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing? Great start to the podcast. Just before we jumped live, I wasn't sure if Kahuna was going to make it. Luckily, he did make it in time, and Jake pulled out, so I was going to do it solo. Imagine, Kahuna, if you weren't here.
I'm here.
And
I'm here.
And nobody would be able to tell that my mic wasn't working. What a start to the podcast.
Yeah, man. I woke up with a ridiculous headache this morning, and I was like, it's not going away. 10 minutes before the 10 o'clock, I messaged you and say, look, I don't know if I can make it, but I was like, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to try to sleep this off. But my kids kept screaming, would not shut up. I was like, okay, I might as well. I'm up now. There's no getting past it. So I'm here. Survivor. Yeah. Good start to the morning.
We appreciate you. I would have done the live on my own. It's been I feel like it's been a hot minute since the last time I did a solo live. But we've got such a great audience that jump on weekly, and we've already got a bunch of them here in the live. I wasn't going to let the team down. I was going to jump on, talk to the audience, but I am grateful you jumped on, because I wouldn't have realized that my mic wasn't working. But I feel like a wacky season like Survivor 46 deserves a wacky intro to a podcast as well.
Perfect.
So,
Perfect.
We're giving the people what they want. Let's say hello to a few people here. We've got Sarah in the live saying, so excited for the live. I can't wait to hear everyone's thoughts on Survivor 50. Maybe this is why Tony reactivated Instagram. I hope so. Obviously, big news, Kahuna, this week with Survivor 50 being announced as a returnee season. I don't know if you're like me, but suddenly Survivor 46, 47, 48, 49, none of it really matters anymore. Like, I'm razor focused on when do we get to season 50.
That's the weird thing about like the fact that they've chosen this way, because like what's the next season's worth of contestants going to be acting like in order to get a callback? Like they're going to be looking for moments and really playing up the TV to hope to get onto 50. Like it's going to be.
Jeff wants that.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it probably wouldn't be anything out of the norm compared to what we're seeing this season. There was some interesting strategy that was discussed that I do need to get into with you at some stage, because it's a lot of resume talk, and some of it to me is just bizarro. I don't get how making a move like the move that is explained is going to build a CV and a standalone. But again, like, clearly that's the TV moments that Jeff wants. But for me, Survivor 50, such exciting news. Obviously, super excited to see returning players come back. Also excited that he did confirm in the week that it's not going to be from season 41 onwards. Like, it's anybody is up for grabs. He's actually come out and said that. So there was, for a while there, we were kind of worried. We were nervous that there were certain people like, Christian Ubicki and that cast from, David vs. Goliath, and that may be missed out on, but maybe they will come back. I've also heard Kelly Wentworth this week, that her phone's been ringing off the hook, people trying to connect with her, all that kind of stuff in case she does go back and play the game again. So in some ways, it's going to be a massive disadvantage, I feel like, for players that play the next couple of seasons, because they don't get the pregame. Like anybody that's played prior to this season, they are now already making alliances. They're getting ready for season 50. But by the time these players come in from 47, 48, and 49, they're going to be behind the 8 ball, Kahuna, when it comes to alliances.
And right now we've got, 18 months to 2 years of pregame? Like, how long before they actually film season 50? There can be a lot done in that time, like just with some text messages.
100%. Like, I mean, they all live in the same country. There could be some holiday trips down to the Caribbean together. There could be networking events and over in Los Angeles for people to get to, like Survivor podcast, networking events all the time with players going to it. Like, if you're going to hang out with someone in real life, you're going to create stronger connections than anybody that's going to come in the next couple of seasons. In some ways, I almost wonder if anyone from the next couple of seasons will be set up for failure going into a season like season 50. But anyways, we're getting off topic. We're not even talking about the episode, but definitely a fun comment there from Sarah. I wanted to dive into it a little bit. We've got Kiwi here, and yes, please like and subscribe and share this content if you see it. We love bringing Survivor recaps to you, challenge recaps to you, hopefully even more in the future. If the channel can grow large enough where we can do this more full-time or get more people on, then obviously we're going to continue to push as much effort as we can into this, and we appreciate everybody for liking, subscribing, and sharing. We've got Chris here as well. Chris, welcome. Jay's back saying, put Chris on Survivor 50. If only I had my US citizenship or green card, maybe I could have gone over and played the game. It would have been amazing. I will say those Survivor US sometimes can be a little bit of a gamble. Like, it's becoming like strategy can take place, but it's just such. I find that Survivor 50, or by the time Survivor 50 hits, can you imagine like going in there as the only new player, you know, with all the returning cast? Like, I would probably just be easy cannon fodder, unless he's talking about Chris Underwood. Could be Chris Underwood.
Nah, he's talking about you for sure. I would
Yeah.
back it as well. I want to see Chris on any Survivor, but I think his best shot is Aussie for sure.
I
Like,
think so.
legally anyway.
Legally, anyways, yeah. We've got, who else do we have here? Gabe's here. This season is wacky, just like the start of this podcast.
Yeah.
I added that last bit, but you know, it is a wacky season. And Chris, like, anyone want to meet up at Applebee's after the live? Don't get me started, Chris. We're going to be talking about Applebee's. We don't have Applebee's over in Australia, but we're definitely going to be talking about the Applebee's controversy this week on the show. Why didn't you pick me for Applebee's? I see you eat every day. Believe me, we're going to get into it. Finally, the sound should be working now. Tech support 101, is it plugged in? It wasn't plugged in. So I had it right next to me here, and I used the what do you call it? Like the USB-C cable that goes into the back of it to charge other headphones of mine overnight, and I forgot to plug it back into the main one that powers this mic. That was the big tech issue that we had here in the beginning. Pre-gaming for 2 years, exactly as what I said. YouTube Bearcat says the season will be even more wackadoodle than this season. Yeah, it's 100% possible. Danika's here as well. They'll be exploring like Liz. There will be a GIF or meme as well as always remembered. Let's see who else is jumping in. Jay is saying, unless 47 to 49 have absolute phenomenal characters and winners, I doubt that anyone from this season will be asked to return for 50, because 41 to 46 has enough stars to return already for 50. Yeah, that's the problem when you do a season so far in advance and then you're using like a big season, like season 50. It's a big deal. We're getting 50 seasons of the show and you're using that as your first returnee cast season. Now, you can't even do like a new era All-Stars on its own. You have to bring in some older players to actually honor the fact that the show got to 50 seasons, Kuna.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about it, because I don't necessarily want to compare it to the challenge where they bring back every season, right? But some of the players that are beloved and that we know so much and are legendary, iconic characters were built up over not just one season, but a second season and sometimes a third season before they kind of get to that level of appreciation, right? And we have players in 41 to 46 that could easily be in that category, but we won't know because they're not given that chance until they're going to swim in the ocean of 50 with like Robs and like Parvati's and Sandra's of that ilk, you know what I mean? I don't know if they're all going to be in it, but you know what I mean? Like that status is hard to compete with when you've only had one season of the new era where everyone's like, oh, the new era sucks. Like, how do you get them established as beloved characters on that level without giving them a chance to at least try on their own? Like, I think 45 could have been at least in the middle somewhere, you know, could have been a real opportunity. But Jeff, hey man, it got to 50. We haven't made a TV show that got to 50 seasons, right? Or it's going to get to 50 seasons. So maybe Jeff knows what he's doing. The fans disagree. We'll see.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, and I totally agree with everything that you said. I've not watched Deal or No Deal Island at all, but I've seen clips of Boston Rob, and it kind of like, you know, at one point I was like, I've had enough of Boston Rob. He keeps coming back all the time to Survivor. It gets, at some point you just want to see new legends being created in the game, but seeing the clips of Boston Rob on Deal or No Deal Island I've actually downloaded the first 2 episodes. I'm gonna watch it because I actually started feeling like I'm missing Boston Rob. I'm like, damn, like he's so good at TV. Just seeing the little clips, and I'm like, I'm gonna give it a crack. I'm gonna watch it. I don't know, it will not be like Survivor, but it's like you said, it's these guys have had multiple seasons on TV. They're veterans. They've gotten good at the shows that they're doing. And yeah, I don't know. Like, I agree with you. It's going to be tough for these new characters to compete with existing legends of the game. Even if Boston Rob's not there, even if some of those players of that caliber isn't there. I mean, if Kelly potentially is in the running, I don't think she is. She wouldn't have, if she was actually thinking of playing, she wouldn't have said people are hitting her up. But you know, just the fact that people are actually reaching out to people like Kelly and that, you know, that they're probably reaching out to some decent names for the next season as well. Gabe here says Chris's best shot is fans versus favorites in Australian Survivor. I'm never going to live down the fans versus favorites from Gabe. Gabe, you never forget, mate. You keep me honest. You know, we need you to be keeping Tom honest when he's back on the podcast. Let me slide, okay? I don't need to be playing fans versus favorites. Yeah. He's never going to give me. He's going to make sure I'm on my toes all the time. Jay says, please don't bring back Rob. He's played 5 times already. I don't think Rob will come back unless the only way I see Boston Rob coming back and playing Survivor again is if it's like truly like a GOAT season or a legendary season or whatever you want to call it. But it would have to be something like that. It could be fun if they did what the challenge is doing, but they'll probably be seen as someone that is stealing the theme, but it's not like they haven't done it in the past. Like the challenge had bloodlines before Survivor had Blood versus Water, right? Blood versus Water is kind of like a copy of Bloodlines. And now the challenge is doing the eras season where you get the different eras of players coming and playing in season 40 of the challenge. Could be interesting to see an era season in Survivor where you get the new school era, everybody since season 41. You get the middle school era, which is somewhere in the middle, and then your old school era, which would give players like a Lex or a Johnny Fairplay or people like that who really want to come back and play the game, give them an opportunity to come back as well. I would kind of like to see something personally like that. But let's get into Dondi. It's a good time, Chris.
Deal or no deal?
Dondi. Deal or no deal? Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. I have to check it out. Welcome to the live. Definitely. I'm thinking of checking it out because, like I said, I've seen some clips from Boston Rob, and the guy is just good TV. Like, you cannot deny how good he is in confessionals and things like that. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but it's been popping up on my feed on TikTok and things like that. I'm getting like little snippets of him, and I'm like, he's too good, man. He's too good. I got to go watch this show, you know. And I'm not talking about his strategy. I'm talking about his personality. It's just, you know, it's something that he I don't know how to even describe it. Like, he's just good TV. You want to listen to what he's got to say at all times. But let's get into the episode. I think that was a good 11 minutes of talking about Survivor 50, the state of the game, where it's going, all those kind of things. But, you know, we need to talk about episode 10 here. And episode 10 starts off with very interesting. You know, Q's kind of exiled from the rest of the tribe. He's not being spoken to. Hunter's gone. Liz is really annoyed. We're going to see her continue to be annoyed because how dare Q mess up her plan when she was trying to get him out. And Hunter, you know, ended up going home, which is maybe someone she thought she could work with. And one of the things that I found very interesting in the early stages of this episode, Kahuna, is that everybody is in their feelings. Like, and I understand, like, we're sitting on the couch, we've got a full belly, we're eating, you know, like, I acknowledge all of that. But Survivor's been on TV for a very long time. And one thing we can always say categorically is that if you become emotional and you make emotional decisions in Survivor, you're losing the game. And a lot of these people are so emotional in the beginning. Like, you know, you've got Tiff doesn't want to talk to Q. Kenzie doesn't want to hear from him. Like, two people who've done a lot of work pre-season or pre-merge with him to build relationships. They don't want to hear from him. And then, you know, someone who's fast rising in my estimations for winner picks and someone that I'm really, really enjoying. Like, there's two people. I found my two people I'm shouting for this season because I've been struggling to find people that I can get behind. But Maria and Q are probably those two people that I really want to get to the end. And Maria comes in and she takes this opportunity, goes and talks to Q on the beach, makes sure he understands there's still hope for you in this game. I thought phenomenal play by her. Nothing, you know, that is out of the ordinary or should be shocking to people. That is how you play Survivor. Maria played textbook Survivor early on in this episode. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Brilliant from Maria. And she was calling it from last week. Like, she was like, he's out. Everybody hates him. That means he's useful to me, which is great strategy, because not only is he desperate to vote with someone. He wants someone to bring him in and be a vote for them. That's numbers. But if he does go far with you and you bring him to the end, everybody hates this dude. He's not winning. He's perfect to sit next to. And you've engineered all of it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I hate this word, but we've seen it so much this season, is the resume building. This is the real resume building that will count in the end, right? Is building those numbers around you, not some silly move that was probably detrimental to your own game, but actually building a move and plays
I love it.
that
Yeah.
many people aren't seeing, which you can then explain as your resume, which again, I hate that phrase in this show, but Maria's doing all the right things.
100%. And I just realized I marked this comment, never brought it up. Sarah said, this live always makes my week, especially with my dad having cancer. It's so nice to get that off my mind. And Sarah, sorry to hear about your dad. Hope he's doing well and recovering. And we appreciate having you here for the live. Like, it's always so fun. Like, for me, the reason I get up, like I said, even this morning, Kahuna had this massive headache. He jumped on. It's because we know there's people like yourself who come to the live every week. And it really drives us as well, seeing familiar names pop up every single week. And we really appreciate everyone, and we appreciate you being here. I hope your dad gets well and is on recovery as well. Yeah, I agree with you on the resume build side of things. It's so bizarre to me because, Kenzie, someone that a lot of people see as a potential winner pick. I know that the fans love her, and she does do great confessionals. There's no hate from my end to her. Like, some of her confessionals are so funny, even at Applebee's when she's like, oh no, I'm not eating the burger, which Liz wanted so badly. She's good TV, but I don't think she's a good strategic player. Like, why do you need to get rid of your best friend in the game? And that is like the thing you need to do to build a resume. It makes absolutely no sense. I was thinking about it today, and it's just why it's a shame we don't have Jake on the podcast, because he'll call us out. Jay is on the podcast though, J-E, and he's got a memory like Jake, so he'll call us out if we get this wrong. So J-E, I'm going to rely on your knowledge here for Survivor. But when last has someone won based on the fact that they took out their best friend in the game? When last has that been like the winning move in Survivor? And I get her strategy about, we've played the same game, it's going to be difficult for us to differentiate, but you're so far away from the end and you don't have numbers. You've got no numbers. Why are you going after Tiff so early? Makes no sense to me. And then she had probably the worst episode, I reckon, of everyone this episode. Like, because she wanted to make the strike, pulled back from the strike, and then the people that she was wanting to make the strike with, they ended up going ahead, and now she's out, so she doesn't even have any claim to the move being made. So I feel like Kenzie's winning shot down in the tanks at this point. The only way she wins is if she's in a final with Liz and Q at this stage, because she'll be more likable, probably.
Man,
is that do you agree with that? Am I being too harsh?
No, not at all. I think Kenzie's whole thing was that she was so social. She was making connections everywhere. But when you start cutting them off, like, she's obviously gotten to the point where Charlie and Maria were willing to work with her. We know her bond with Ben because of his overnight trauma. I don't think Venus or Liz have anything against Kenzie. So she looks set up that she could work with a lot of people, but she's now cut off the one person that she was guaranteed to be able to work with, when so many other things, especially when you've got a Venus and a Liz and a Q, so unpredictable, so unreliable. You can't do anything really with them. And the only people that have someone to work with now has just been solidified with Maria and Charlie and Ben as an orbiting moon. But the core of, and they're the only pair. They're the only two people actually legitimately working together. And Kenzie cut hers out without, like you said, without being able to claim any of the credit, without getting any of the thing. I guess the only silver lining in that for Kenzie is that if it's not her move, how will the jury react to that? Is Tiff going to be like, oh, Kenzie didn't backstab me, therefore she's talking with Tevin, she's talking with Hunter?
Yeah.
Maybe that it's the,
and especially in a season like this, where I feel like we're dealing with a cast of people that are highly emotional. That it could be the difference. It could be the difference between, and because I was going to say, was it good strategy for Kenzie at the end to visibly show she was out of the vote? Like, her face gave everything at the end when Tiff got voted out, and depending on how you look at that, in the sense of, like you just said here, Tiff maybe pulls Tevin together and they're really bitter at some of the people who took control of the game, which I don't, it feels like it's too far away from the end for that. And I don't think that Charlie and Maria, who I think are in the driver's seat to win this season, I don't think they've pissed off enough people on the jury to the point where they're going to be like, oh, we'd rather go for Kenzie to win this season. And Kenzie still has to get to the end as well, which is going to be difficult now without people. I just don't see it. I don't see it. And if she does win at this stage, it would be lucky.
I'm squinting real hard to see any positive.
You're trying to see a path.
Yeah, but it's hard. Like there's potentially like, in Marvel's multiverse where there's like every potential opportunity, like possibility is a potential possibility. There is one there. It's very, very unlikely, if not impossible,
Let's pull up a couple comments here. Jay says, yes, Chris, Survivor 50, Battle of the New Era. So I've got one person there that is endorsing the idea, a celebration of how Survivor has evolved over 50 seasons. I think that would be really cool to see. And then we've also got Q saying, I'm enjoying Liz more and more the crazier she gets. Liz is an interesting one. She's an interesting one. Do we just rip the band-aid off and talk about Liz a little bit now? Let's do it. So obviously she has a moment straight after the vote, very upset, gets really frustrated, which is fine. Everybody has that moment. And then at the challenge, what was that? Like when she just absolutely lost it, started screaming at Q. I don't know how I feel about it. Like, I mean, it's kind of like Jeff said. Jeff is like, you're allowed to have your moment, which is true because, I mean, it makes for TV. It's probably would you reckon this is probably the biggest moment of New Era Survivor? Like, I don't think we've seen anything like this in New Era.
I mean, yeah, it's like, it's a moment and it's definitely memorable. We're never going to forget it, but is it good?
Yeah.
Like,
it's not good for the game.
What I saw was like, a broken woman who's starving and basically tortured on this island, and we watched it all, of her meltdown, of her like absolutely breaking in front of us. And I don't necessarily want to see that, even though it is absolutely memorable. It's the biggest moment easily, but it's a moment that makes me like cringe a little. Like I'm like, this is like people hurting because of a TV show, not because of a move made in the game, or because she was betrayed by strategy or anything like that. It's just she is literally starving, and we're watching her like mental faculties leave her. It's like it's weird.
She glitched for a moment there.
Absolutely.
And I was like, to be honest with you, the more Q and Maria becomes villains, and they're called villains, the more I love them, because I love villains. I'm team villain all the way. And I thought Q just boldly looking her in the face and being like, no, I am choosing who I want to choose. I hate the fact that he wanted to quit, but like you said, he wanted to quit not because he couldn't make it, clearly, because then he would have been gone by now. I think he's proven that he didn't want to quit because he couldn't hack it out there. He wanted to quit because of his moral code, right? That's the reason he wanted to get out of the game. And if you look past that, which is definitely annoying because I don't like anybody quitting, I really like Q. I really think Q is Survivor gold when it comes to playing Survivor. And the fact that he could do that, like, to me is just amazing. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, it's cold. Like, Ben had a moment at camp afterwards saying that how bad of a person Q is. This woman is literally starving. You're playing Survivor. Yeah. And Jeff even mentioned this, for $1 million. Like, why should you give anybody an advantage in the game? It's not like Liz can't leave the game. She can leave the game. No one's forcing her to be there. If she can't eat, if she can't do this, she can leave the game. So why should it be on another player to feed her? No, it's not Q's responsibility. 100%. Yeah, it's not Q's responsibility.
It's not Q's responsibility. It's the TV show's responsibility. It's production's responsibility. It's like, how people go, what? How can you not tip your server? I'm like, well, it's up to the business to pay their people enough so that they're not relying on tips or whatever from people. If you're relying on Q to give you food when you voted for him, like, I mean, Q's cold, man. Like, I do like how he actually called her out and said, Liz, I know you haven't eaten, but Kenzie, we've been together. I'm gonna give you Like, he didn't have to actually give her that like second of hope. I was like, oh, he's actually gonna pick Liz,
Yeah.
and then boom, like no, and oh man, like everyone was feeling it. Everyone's just like
Yeah.
cringing the hardest they've ever cringed on Survivor. Like
Yeah.
to
Apparently
see
there
their
was
face.
more that happened off air. I'm pretty sure I read this somewhere where people wanted to give their spot to Liz, and Q was like, "No, I chose you. You're staying."
Wow.
And he was like doubling down on it. He was doubling down on it, and we didn't see it on
Man.
the TV show. Darren here says Jeff pushed that. She was trying to turn away and bite her tongue, and that's true. He was like,
Yeah.
"What's on your mind, Liz?" Because that's what Jeff does. He probes. He sees reactions. He's been doing this
I don't
for a
think he
long
liked.
time.
I think he regretted it though. He was like, "What's on your mind, Liz?" And then he's like, "Oh shit! I didn't know it was gonna be that."
Didn't realize it was going to be that deep. Yeah, and it's like Gabe says here, good TV moment. Like while we're sitting on our couches having popcorn, watching and eating food, she's having a meltdown in front of in front of us on TV. But again, like we said, like Liz does not have to be there. She doesn't even need the money. But she's clearly doing this for, maybe she's doing this to prove something to herself, like, and she's a big fan of Survivor. So I get it from that point. And then also, I think a lot of the things came out, and I know there's a lot of comments coming in. We'll go back and read through all the comments, I promise everyone. There was also the moment later on in the episode where she kind of explains a little bit, I think, where some of this frustration must come from. Having grown up in a household, and I know a lot of people don't like the backstories, but I think that it was relevant to the episode. And when it's relevant, I kind of like them. So they showed her growing up in a family that probably wasn't well off and having a food shortage is kind of how she explained it. So having gone without food for times, can you imagine playing a game where you suddenly don't have food and you already were traumatized by that as a kid, like emotionally and mentally, how that would stuff with you? So I can kind of understand why she got to that breaking point.
They needed to put that there because otherwise it just comes off as the most entitled, like demanding rant. Like, yes, driven by starvation, sure, but to give a little bit of empathy to a screaming woman who's just like, I wanted this. It's Applebee's. I like Applebee's. I have Applebee's with my kid, therefore I deserve it. Is so like off-putting and entitled, but to have that little element in there of it goes back to some childhood stuff there, it's all part of it. And they did try to make it feel more, I think they tried to smooth it over because just a screaming, ranting person about I want my food is not a good look. So to actually put that in there, I think maybe smoothed it over slightly, but it still sits funny with a lot of people. Like you said, people calling her Karens, people saying that she's just a rich person screaming because she didn't get what she wants. Like we've seen so many videos on the internet of Karens doing the exact same thing in a shop or on the street. But it's not usually fueled by starvation. So it's a little bit different, but I do think they were trying to make her look slightly better than what it comes across as.
Yeah. And Sarah here says people are calling her a bad mom just due to what happened and how she reacted on the show. And it's like, does some viewers have like selective viewing? Do they just choose to watch like certain aspects of the show and then didn't see that aspect, which would explain that maybe there's some emotional trauma in her life that carried over into the show and maybe was triggered by the fact that she didn't have food? Like I sometimes question like what people, they just grab onto the most insane thing in the episode. And it's almost like we've spoken about this on the show a lot of the times, like a lot of viewers don't see these people as people. They're human beings with a lot of crap that goes on in life outside of this. It's quite complex. It's like, even if you look back at like the Dreams Yarman situation that happened years ago, where Dreams stole basically the car via a deal because he said, I'll take the car, and then I'll give my immunity to you. And he didn't give the immunity, which was seen as a very controversial thing when they got to, I think, Final Four, something like that. A lot of people back then, now I think it's aged differently. Back then, people were like, Dreams is this bad guy. It's a game about cheating and deceiving. And he came from a place where he had nothing. He had nothing. He was, I believe, at that point, homeless when he played the game.
Yes.
So there's so much like this. Life's not black and white. There's so much gray. There's so much context needed. And it's like with her, at least they gave us that context and we understood some of her backstory. So I thought it was a good a good flashback. Let's read a few more comments here. Daryl is still on the Kenzie watch, says that the edit really makes it seem like Kenzie is going to win. So I don't think Charlie or Maria is making it to the final three. I see Kenzie, Ben, and Venus in final three. I don't know. Like, Kenzie's been consistent. I mean, definitely from the fact that she's had content. It's just, and there's players that have won in the new era where I'm like, they haven't really done much, but they've won the show. So Kenzie can definitely still win. I'm not counting that out. I think at this point you could make a case for Charlie, you could make a case for Maria, Kenzie. Hell, I wouldn't even put Venus out of it. Like, I think Liz would be the one I'd be the most shocked at if she actually does win, just because she's rich. She doesn't need the money. People won't vote for her most likely. But I feel like almost anyone can win it. Maybe Liz and Q are the least likely to win it. I can see Q get to the end and get no votes at this stage, especially if he does ride that Maria Charlie train and if he becomes a bit of a weapon for them in the game. I could see that, but they could still be threatened by him going into an immunity at the end, not wanting him to decide, like, make the decision of who makes fire. So just by the fact that he can win immunities, he could become a threat. But now Charlie is a threat. Charlie's won 2 in a row. Q's only won 1. So who's the true challenge threat, right? Or has Q won an immunity? I can't even remember if he has actually won. He won the reward challenge.
Yeah.
So again, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Chris says, I'm pissed. Yeah. That's how I would feel. I'm going to be honest. When Q gets voted out, I'm going to be like, I'm pissed, because I'm enjoying the drama that he brings to the show at the moment. Darren says, a good friend of mine knows Liz, and he said she is exactly like that in real life. Yeah, I could see it. Like, she's clearly, she's an A-type high-strung personality. I can see it. It's why she's successful.
Survivor doesn't change who you are. It just amplifies who you are. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see what other people are saying here. Daryl says Liz was really upset. Tiffany said in an interview with Rob that Kenzie and Maria offered up to give up their spot for Liz, but Q wouldn't let them. That's what I heard. And
I wouldn't
that's
either.
cold, but yeah, but it makes me love Q even more.
Like, she doesn't deserve it, or I picked who I picked. I'm like, okay, I just saw that, and I'm going to go spend lunch with you and hang out with you for overnight.
100%.
I'm not spending any time with that person. Like that would have been the most awkward, horrible dining experience of anyone's life.
And everybody's been giving him the cold shoulder. Like he said, like, listen, I am on the beach on my own. No one's checking in on me. Maria was the only one who came in and checked on me, which is why he chose her. He doesn't owe these people anything. Like, they haven't given him the basic human decency of making him at least feel like he's a valued part of society and a person. Like, why should he do anything? He owes them nothing. He's playing with house money at this point.
He calmly explained, you voted for me. And she just screamed. The thing that made it even worse and funnier.
At that point, she was like, she paused for a second. She's like, oh, damn, he's got a point. And then she just like kept ranting.
Yeah. But she was also like, it wasn't even about the food. Like, I know she was, but she said to Q, you blew up my spot. Like, he's like, he's like, what are you talking shit? So you're telling me you were engineering a vote against me. You were trying to do all this stuff. And because I stuffed that up, now I'm the bad guy. Like, that your plans against me went awry. Therefore, I have to, make it good with you. Like, it's so insane that she threw that stuff in there too.
Yeah, and again, I see Danica says here, Q was being a jerk. Then Liz exploded because he didn't want to give up the spot with one of the others wanting to give it up.
Okay.
What does being a jerk mean? The fact that he didn't, like, I don't think he was actually a jerk. He's pretty calm. He didn't look like he was exploding at any time. I doubt he actually said anything nasty to her. He probably was a jerk by not wanting to let them give up their spot, which in my mind, that's not being a jerk. That's him playing the game, and he won the challenge. He can do what he wants at that point. This isn't real life. If it was real life and someone was starving and you knew that they didn't have an option, there was no food available, like, Liz has got the option. She can quit at any time. She can walk out of this game. She's not forced. In fact, she doesn't even need the money, right? So she can leave. She can leave. There's no need for her to be there. So it's different. It's different. I don't see him as being a jerk. I see him as playing the game. It's a game. Like, if it's real life, fully get it. Different conversation.
Look, the way he said it as well, he was so calm and cool in the situation. If was not in the edit was him going, you know what? Screw you. You blah, blah, blah. Like, if he did that, but he was different. Like, you voted for me, Liz. Like, he was so calm about it. which
Yeah.
to some people makes it more jerky. Like that'll get under your skin when the person you're so angry at, so annoyed at, is like completely calm and cool. You're just like, ah! Like
because it makes you look worse.
Yeah,
it makes you look worse.
Did.
And it's like,
It
am I the
did.
crazy person because this person's not blowing up?
Yeah.
So Jeff pushed. We spoke about this. Jeff pushed that out of her. Kiwi says, I think she's used to getting what she wants, and the food on top of things is not going the way she wants. It's making it worse. 100%. She's a successful woman, and she's taken that energy that she had of coming from not much to making something for herself, and that has always played out for her in real life. So it's obviously not fun when things don't work out that way, I guess, in a game like Survivor. Let's see what else is here. I love Q. I wish he didn't quit because then he wouldn't be a huge target. Totally agree. I think Q could have been in a good spot this season to even like get to the end and potentially win. Like I just, his game just blew up, and it was due to his own, like, what's the difference? And this is one thing I do want to call out. It's like, he felt a certain type of way. It's probably because he had that connection with Tiff. It made him feel guilty, but he wanted to throw himself on the sword for Tiffany because it wasn't the right thing morally to do. But then morally, he's okay with not doing the Liz thing. I feel like it has to do with the fact that Tiff and him have that connection. It felt different to him than Liz, which he never played the game with her. He was never close to her from the start. But yeah, he's just got a very interesting moral compass that really, comes into play. Daryl here says Survivor is savage. It is what it is. It's like when Jeff did the whole recruitment piece. It was my favorite one that he's done this season. Straight after the challenge, he's like, "What can I say? Survivor's tough." Like straight afterwards, he's like, "If you want to apply and you think you can hack it, go and apply."
That was great.
Kind of thing.
He turns around and goes, "Ooh." Like that was the whole
Jeff has
vibe.
been fun this season.
Yeah.
Like, listen, he's been fun. Jeff has definitely been fun this season as the host. Like, again, like, my criticism of him is not that of the host. It's some of the creative stuff he does sometimes. But I feel like this has been one of the seasons where you can tell he's trying to come a bit more alive again as a host. A bit more spicy, stands his ground a little bit more. I'm enjoying that side of him a little bit more. It's like old school Jeff. He's still in there.
Yeah, and I'm happy with it too. I want more of it because he's become a bit of a bot, hasn't he? Just sort of going through the motions and doing the same thing. But this is changing it up a bit, and I guess it's because we've got wackadoodle characters that are doing weird things that he pulls out popcorn and cushions and calls them out for quitting challenges and all that sort of thing. And it's absolutely deserved. Like it's not deserved. It makes it better. It's so much better when we know Jeff has a personality. He's charismatic enough to get a job where he's now hosting one of the biggest reality TV shows in the world. Why hide that? You know what I mean? Like he obviously has the personality there, and bring it out. Like that's what we want to see.
Yeah. Look at this. Tom's coming in, keeping an eye on Gabe because Gabe said earlier that Tom would not like Maria. And then Tom is, he's coming in with the receipt saying, "Gabe, I like Maria. She treats Q like a human." So welcome Tom to the live as well. Saying here, so even if he's trying to claim one of my favorite catchphrases that I invented, not sure what he's referring to. There's been so many. Q is my favorite person who has been on the show in the new era. Yeah, I love Q. Q is he's gold. He's TV gold. Realness is saying I want a Q and Venus Liz final 3 for ultimate chaos.
We get a
Venus wins. Venus wins. I think
we get a strike. We get a walk out of the jury, like a no vote. Like
Jeff's there like, for the first time in Survivor history, the whole jury refused to vote. They've forgone their appearance fee money for Survivor and walked out of the game. This is unprecedented. And we're now going to have a final immunity challenge for the win. Whoever wins the challenge wins. It'd be interesting. There's so many good comments that have come in. I can't even get into all of them. But thank you everybody for being so active. I am going to move past quite a few and go back to the episode. So we obviously get that Applebee's, reward that happens. Obviously, we don't have Applebee's over in Australia, so hard to refer back to it. Was there anything specific that stood out for you? Was there anything that stood out? Was that burger did it look as appetizing to you as Liz went on about it? Like, or was there something else you would have liked? I'm a big burger man myself. Like, I would have definitely gotten into it.
I mean, I love burgers as well, but it looked like like a good burger for sure. It didn't look bad, but it looked like a burger like that you get from any of those places. So I don't know if Applebee's is. I didn't know Applebee's has such a reputation, and I thought Applebee's was like about roast beef or something. I don't know why I had that in my
Yeah.
head. That it was about the beef.
I think it's like a Wendy's or something like that, similar like kind of restaurant, Denny's type of thing, but just a different like diner restaurant experience. And obviously the Americans here will let us know. Is Applebee's really good over there in the US? Is it really a thing where everybody wants to go to Applebee's? Like because
Nunez says Arby's is the beef place. Sorry.
right. Right. Arby's, not Applebee's. There's a few people here that will be able to tell us. Like, we don't have any reference of it. Chris, you could not have eaten that burger after production served 15 courses before presenting it.
That was great.
Yeah,
too,
it's true. That is true. That is insane. Like, I would have been like, listen, bring out the burger first. Where's the burger? I'm also one of those people, like, I eat small, like I don't eat massive portions at a time. Like I eat smaller portions throughout the day. So I definitely would have struggled. And then you haven't eaten for so many days, so your stomach's already shrunken. And but it was kind of interesting. Did you find it interesting that the ladies were basically shit talking him the whole time while they were there? And it's like, oh, I can't believe he thinks he's going to convince us to change our minds and all of this kind of stuff. And he didn't even try. Like at no point did he campaign or say, hey, you guys owe me for bringing you here. None of that. And they kept going on about like, the toxic boyfriend relationship and thinking that he's just going to, like, it was a fun little piece by Kenzie there to say that. And I did enjoy it, but still he didn't actually campaign. He didn't actually use that opportunity to do anything. I think in his mind, he was just like, I just want to do something good by the two girls that I've done wrong in the game. I feel like was the angle he went with, but I didn't see him capitalize on it because I think he knew that ship has sailed.
They're obviously so butthurt by his actions and that betrayal of them that, like, with everyone, like even with Tiff as well, like her downfall was thinking that everyone felt the same way, like misreading, like we dislike Q so much, surely everyone else is in the same boat. And it's obviously influencing to the point where they can't even have the meal without talking about him and all that sort of thing. Like it must have been pretty big for them because it's been 3 episodes of like when you consider that they put up with Banu and Q is the one that they're actually focused, like it has traumatized them way more. It says a lot, I think.
It does. Danica says here, Applebee's is like Chili's or watered down TGI Friday. Do you have those? We've got TGI Fridays over here.
Yeah, do we?
Not in Sydney. I went to a TGI Fridays in Gold Coast.
Okay.
When I was in the Gold Coast.
We don't have it in Sydney. And we used to have Chili's, but Chili's went defunct and left Australia about 10 years ago. Right. Which is,
Kiwi asked, did they bring the burger last so that they wouldn't eat it to piss off Liz? I feel like production was probably radio chef on the other side there. Please leave the burgers for last. We want to get a TV moment here when the contestants go back. And probably got the message in. I would have been pissed if I was there and the burger was last.
They may have done that because
obviously
in the grand scheme of things, when you've got a menu like they had, I don't think the burger is the main course, like the entree. When you've got
not dessert, the burger's not dessert.
It's not dessert, but it's like it's a main meal. But if you're gonna have anything in order, the prawn and chicken and the like those dishes come after a burger, right? The burger is more not as formal as a proper chicken and prawns and
Listen,
that sort of thing.
You need that bun, you need the carbs when you're out there. Like I'd be like, give me my burger. Like I'd be pissed if they brought out the burger last, so that would be my biggest thing. I'm a big, why I like burgers so much as well, Kuna, is because I'm one of those people, and people I know everybody's going to judge me in the life for admitting to this, because most people, and I'm used to it. Everybody judged me for it already in life already, so it's not like I haven't heard it all before. I love well done steak. I don't like medium rare steak. I eat my steak well done. Yeah, I love it well done. So that's why I like burgers, because you can't stuff up burgers. A lot of chefs don't know how to do a well done steak, and they refuse to do it sometimes. So I'm like, if I go to a new place that I've never been to, I'm like, I know they can't stuff up my burger, so I'll just get the burger.
Well done steak.
Yeah, that's me. That's me. Can't eat it raw, man. Like I don't like raw food. I'm telling you now. So I know this is going to be definitely a lot of people. Oh, there we go. See, Tom knows what's up. I got one person in life agree.
I liked well done steak too when I was 9. you know.
Nah. My previous boss that I used to work with, he used to eat basically. I can't remember how. I think they call it blue or something like that. So you
Blue,
put it,
yeah,
you put
that's what.
you put the steak on. What it does is he's like, it just needs to seal it on both ends, and then he likes it if it's like hot on the outer layer and cold on the inside. I'm like,
Oh
what are you doing?
no, this
I'm
guy
like,
wants to
what are
eat
you
his
doing?
steak with some fava beans and a nice Chianti. Like,
Yeah. We got a few people here that at least have it. Palava Girl says nope, no well done steak. Love burgers and well done steaks too.
oh,
There we go. So yeah, I feel like burgers is just it's an easy to go to option if you're afraid that someone's going to stuff up your steak, you know. So that's why I like that. But what about that moment going back? You know, Liz wants to know a little bit about, you know, doesn't really want to know, but the rest of the tribe wants to know
so
about
good.
what that. And then Tiff doesn't give a shit. She's just
Nope.
like, hey, did not eat the burger. I'm like, Tiff, what are you doing? Like,
The Oreo shake was the best. Like,
yeah, I would have
really
lied. I
playing it
would have
up too.
lied. I would have been like, oh, yeah, the burger was really good. You know, even if I didn't have it, I would have pretended like I did. Like, I would not have told them. But because probably she got set up. Somebody probably asked, did you get to the burger? Was the burger really that good? And she was just giving in all the information. I remember old school Survivor. People would come back from these rewards and they would downplay it, not really talk about how good it was and all that kind of stuff. But in New School Survivor, it seems like sharing is caring. And they just lay out all the information about how awesome the reward was.
Man, like, especially when you consider normally that would be hard when you're hearing them talk, but when you know Liz is like had a freaking breakdown about it, and ranted and screamed to the point where no one's ever seen it, and they're like, are they trying to get another one out of her? Like, like it was so bad to do it right in front of her or right behind her. So
yeah, love all the food talk in the live at the moment. Everybody saying here, Chris, you probably love beef fajitas. I do. Sorry, Sarah. I like what I like. I can't deny it. So obviously, yeah, very interesting. I don't know why Tiff was so honest about it. Dolores saying, so really, if they would have said that they ate the burger and they loved it, would that really had made her feel better? Probably not. It was a lose-lose
it wasn't
situation. They
wasted.
walked into
She could have been like,
and
I could
Darren
have
says,
had it then if you threw it away.
yeah, Darren says here, Charlie pushed that. He knew what he was doing. Talking about Charlie, we haven't spoken about Charlie much, but obviously by the time they get back, Maria checks in with Charlie on where the vote's going to go, and she's realizing that there's this real push to get Q out because everybody's in their feelings about Q. They want to get rid of him. 100% the wrong move. Maria and Charlie's on the right move. You got to get rid of the person with the idol. You can't give them another freebie. And then next week, they've got an idol which they're more likely to play because there is no obvious vote. Like this week, there's an obvious vote with Q. So 100% the right pivot here for Maria and Charlie to do that. Charlie obviously also on the same page with Maria, playing a very good game. But again, like, I don't know what it is. Like, if Charlie won the season, I thought about it this week, it'd be like kind of like a meh kind of season for me at the moment. Like, I don't feel connected to Charlie. Like, he's a nice guy, probably a really sweetheart in real life. It's just, I don't know, he doesn't do much for me in the season as of yet. He's starting to win challenges, which is great. He just seems too nice. You know what I mean? Like, this is like, I like my characters to have like a little bit of grunt.
Yeah, this says a lot more about Chris than it does Charlie, I think, because Charlie,
Yeah,
really, he's been
he's a
playing
nice
a
guy in
great
real
game,
life.
but he's playing a great game too. Like, he's in a
Yeah.
really good position.
No, he is
And
playing a good game.
for a while now, I thought Charlie was getting an edit where it looked like he was driving that relationship and doing a lot more work with the other people than Maria was. But this was the first episode where I went, oh no, Maria is actually looking like the driving force here. She's the one that's making the
Totally
right
agree.
move and calling it. But Charlie was having that edit for a while. I do think he's in there. And yes, he's a nice guy. No, he doesn't have the same like TV moments as a Q or anything like that. I know you like your villains, but he's playing a great game. He is nice. He's set up perfectly to be able to go far.
He's the Tommy Sheehan of the season. He's the Tommy Sheehan. Like, Tommy Sheehan also for me didn't do much for me as a character, but played a good game, and I would give him credit for that. Kiwi says would love for Charlie to win. So obviously, this is the thing. Everybody's got their favorites and people they'd love to see win. I wouldn't hate him winning. It would feel like like it would feel like a bit of a letdown in some ways. Like it's not, and that wouldn't be the first time. Like very rarely do people win where I'm like, I love this winner. Like, this was a win that I really enjoyed. And I do like the crazy wins. Like, I mean, there's a reason I like Tyson and Tony and those guys. Like, I like the people that are really out there. Like even Kim, dominant win, respected as a Survivor player, wasn't the most entertaining player for me,
Yeah.
and a lot of people love Kim, so yeah. Big Show Gunner here says that's right, Charlie seems to be great, but he's hiding himself for his game to the point that it's not great TV. And I think that's what I'm getting at. Daryl says Charlie seems too nice. Darren saying, Meh, if he wins, definitely background player. Totally agree. Well, there are Malcolm and Denise, if we remember. Yep. And they're doing both Malcolm and Denise proud at this stage. I will say that. Palava says, I want to clock this. Charlie is the dark horse, super smart, even emotionally. Maria has better watch out. Yeah, I agree. Definitely a threat. And that's why I brought it up, because I actually think there's a way for Charlie to win this season. Big Show Gunner says, for Chris, how would rank the winner odds? Percentage of Charlie, Kenzie, Maria? What percentage does each have of winning? Good question. I haven't actually thought about that. I would go in order of, at this stage, I would go in order of, it's tough between, Kenzie's third. She's clear third for me between the three. Yep. It's hard to choose between Maria and Charlie. I feel like Charlie's had a more consistent edit. So due to that, I will still put him slightly ahead of Maria, and I'll put Maria at second, but I can very easily see Maria winning, because I agree with you, Kuna. It was only this last episode where I was like, I could see Maria now taking more control of the game. Yep. And she was kind of a driving force behind some of the decisions this week. And she was also the one that was brought into the 6 originally, and Tim had that connection with. So, yeah.
I'd agree with that order. I think Ben might even be ahead of Kenzie. Like, just in the, like, not in the edit at all, obviously, but just in the relationships and the way we are seeing Ben at least verbalize some strategy. Like he is thinking things through, and not everything is just rock. Like that doesn't rock, that shreds. There's a little bit more there, but he's not really, we're not seeing it come out in the gameplay as much, or at least in the edit, but he's dropping some things that he thinks, at least, which is more than we were getting in the first half of the season. But I think the fact that he's closer with Maria and Charlie, and not as big as of a threat as either of them, like, because I think we saw in the preview that maybe people are starting to see Maria as a villain. They might turn on Maria now. So Ben is never going to be in that position. He might actually, I think he could be the Kenzie as far as socially and relationships, and seen in a positive light by everyone in the tribe, but is more embedded because he's got a Charlie and a Maria with him. So
Ben annoyed me this episode when he was like talking about the righteous people, and like, oh, the right thing. What a bad guy Q was for not. I'm like, Ben, get out of my TV screen. I don't need this on Survivor. Like, those are the kind of, and he's probably he's definitely the sweetest guy.
How did that play to the people there around him?
Yeah, it's possible.
When Liz is,
what has
when
he
Liz
done?
is upset, when Liz is ranting, when Liz is crying, Venus is emotional, and he's like, yeah, you're right, Q sucks. Like, what does that do for the relationship? You know what I mean? Like,
he's the hype person. Wins based on being a hype person. But again, like, I just haven't seen any moves from him there. Reality Realness says Tiff did say that Charlie proposed that they use her idol to get out Maria, which is why she felt confident to not play her idol. And it's interesting. It's like, you can look at it as two ways. They didn't show it in the edit because they wanted the Tiff vote to be a bit of a blindside, even though we kind of knew or saw it coming. Like, I didn't feel blindsided when she eventually got voted out, because Tiff was way too confident. You should never be that confident in not playing your idol, which we just saw how it worked out for Hunter in the previous episode. She literally had an example of it. And back to back, the same thing happening. It was crazy to me. But it's interesting that they didn't show that. Does that mean that, that would have been a big game move for Charlie to talk about if he was to get to the end? And if it wasn't shown, it almost makes me want to mark Charlie down as a potential winner, that we didn't see such a big game move from him on screen. Like, I'm always sort of mindful of those things. So it's interesting indeed. Kiwi says, glad to see people coming around on Maria and Charlie. I've always liked
I was
them,
there at the
but I
start.
thought there were other people that at some stages in the game when the 6 was a thing before it completely imploded. I thought there was people in that 6 that could go to the end and win the game, but they kind of played themselves a little bit this season. Let's talk a little bit about the immunity challenge. And sorry, I had to clear my throat. Let's talk a little bit about the immunity challenge and the fact that they go into the immunity challenge and they have to hold up 25% of their body weight. Charlie did the training, and I was actually thinking it before you mentioned it. I was like, man, like a lot of the training I do for the Spartan races now is like dead hangs and like farmer walks and things like that. It's all grip strength. And he's right. It's a lot of challenges in Survivor is grip strength. And he's been training that, and it clearly paid off in this challenge. 25% of your body weight. I knew Q was going to have a tough time because he lost a lot of muscle mass coming into this. The big boys always struggle when it comes to that. But such a fun challenge, seeing them hold up this weight. And then they had the big rice moment before the challenge. Let's talk about the challenge first, and then we can talk about the rice. What did you think of the immunity itself? I know it's an oldie, but it's a goodie, though, in my mind. I like the endurance stuff.
I love the endurance stuff. It like there's no variables, there's no like what could happen here or puzzles to throw people off. It's just your pure will and sheer determination to hold on to something that's heavy and hurts you. How much can you put up with the pain? It's why I love like the whoever had the bet or the pull when we mention Australian Survivor so much and compare it, like the torture chambers that they put the Australian survivors through, even though you're not moving, you're not doing anything, it's not dynamic on TV, it's just standing there and putting up with endurance is so much. It's so like it's not fun to watch, but it does build up the suspense of it. You know what I mean? Like I love seeing people just grit through it and put up with pain. It's pretty impressive because I know I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I'd love to test myself at it. It's interesting. Maria was the only one. I was thinking about it halfway into the challenge because when you do a lot of training and you do deadlifts, you use reverse grip. So you don't go both hands like this because a reverse grip gives you extra grip. And she was doing the reverse grip at one point, and I was like, I was wondering if that would work for extra grip. And most of them had it this way around. So it puts a lot of strain on the forearms, but being able to alternate, you actually get relief on your forearms and you get a better grip. So I was interested to sort of see if that was something that was going to play out for her. And she did well. She hanged in there for a long time, but ultimately the person who did the best, obviously, was Charlie, but Tiff was solid. And like Daryl said, can you imagine how different this episode would have been if Tiff did win the immunity? Q, I think, would have been in trouble. And that would have been a number and an option for Maria and Charlie that would have been gone. Because at this stage, who's Q going to stay loyal to? Who's he going to work with? He's a bit of a, like they said, he's a bit of a wild child. He could really do anything at this stage in the game. He's proven that. But I do think he feels a certain level of loyalty towards Maria, at least at this stage, because she's let the game be the game and she's actually gone and cared for him and talked to him a little bit. So I don't see him turning on Maria anytime soon.
But also in the game, she saved him. Like he was supposed to be gone this episode, if not the last, and Maria was the one that sort of made him safe, and that gets loyalty. That's what makes people loyal. Is not just that she cared for him as a person, which is obviously important, but in the game, she saved his life as well. So it's double. You know what I mean? Like it's sort of embedded even more with Q.
Yeah. Andrea here with a different take on Q, because we've been loving Q this whole podcast. But Andrea says, if the whole cast dislikes Q and they think he's an a-hole, then he most likely is the problem. Does that make for good TV? Yes, but should we pretend he's not a psycho? No. I get where you're coming from. I don't know if he's like a psycho based on the game he's played. He's made some interesting choices, right? And wanting to leave because he felt bad that he betrayed Tiff. We're hearing a lot of vocal, when you say the whole cast, Ben doesn't like him because Ben is all about mateship and friends, and I get it. So he doesn't want to play that strategic game. Totally get it. If you look at Tiff, he betrayed Tiff. So obviously Tiff doesn't like him, and Kenzie is close, and Kenzie wasn't in on the 6. She's feeling a certain type of way. I don't think Charlie and Maria hates Q or thinks he's a psycho or anything like that. I don't think it's the whole cast. I think it's a very vocal portion of the cast that doesn't like him because they're not aligned with him or he betrayed them, or they don't feel like the values he has displayed in the game as values they want to use in the game. I don't know. I just don't see the psycho comment because of it personally.
Well, I think it's more like you mentioned before, like he has a very strange or skewed moral compass. So he
Yes,
stands
100%.
on things, and I think that can be very off-putting because he stands on
Yeah,
things that don't make sense to people. But Maria specifically said, like when she was going up to him, like he's a really good person, and I can
yeah,
see that. I think, and the fact that he did the moral quit, is weird, and that pissed people off. But it does show that I think he is generally a good person in real life. But
yeah.
you know, he's in a game and he's playing a game, and like I turn into a freaking psycho too when I'm competing in games and stuff. You know, like that's the
Yeah,
way it
yeah.
is.
Like, listen, Chris playing Monopoly is not your best friend. Like, he's savage. He will be buying the property from you, and he will make you pay rent every time you step on those tiles. You know,
You
so
should hear, like, you probably can't hear it right now, but right outside my office is our dining room that is now my kids' computer slash play slash toy room, and they're just always in there screaming at Minecraft, screaming at their friends. And I hear my son, who's 6, right? He plays with his sister and her friends who are like 8. So he's not as good as them. He's a few years behind. And I'm always hearing him going, "No, stop hitting me. Stop killing me." And I'm just like, "Shut up and go kill them 1,000 times over. I want you to like stop screaming. Just go get them. Go get them
mm,
back and don't stop until they quit on you because you're crying right now. Beat them in their own game. Get better at it." I'm like screaming from the lounge room while I'm playing Call of Duty, going, "No, I'm getting smashed here." So like I get the impulse to like get him to
yeah,
like stop complaining, go play the game and get better at it and beat them at it. Like stop crying. Like I
yeah.
get that like competitiveness. So for Q, like I don't think he's a bad person at all. I just think
No,
he's playing a game in a way that's, you know, doesn't fit
doesn't
with
make
the other
sense to a lot of
people.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a very vocal and the obviously Survivor's trying to tell a story, so they have to give both sides. And the side that's been wronged by him is going to be vocal about it, and they're going to talk smack about him the whole time while he's out there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they do end up here with a win for Charlie. Charlie gets his second one in a row. Surprised that Jeff didn't call him a challenge beast. He normally does call people challenge beasts after they win back to back. So I was listening out for that one. So maybe Charlie got away a little bit lightly there, and people, because I feel like you look at Charlie and you don't think challenge beast, right? So I feel like he's kind of just
No.
physically the way he looks, he's probably getting away with it a little bit more than say someone like a Q, who people immediately still say, he's going to be a challenge threat in the game, even though he's won one reward challenge so far and hasn't really won anything else. But they do go back to camp, and this is where the strategy talk happens. Kenzie obviously checks in, says the plan's off, don't want to go for Tiff anymore. She's having second thoughts. She wants to go for Q, who spoke about this in depth. They have to find someone. And Charlie is the one who comes in with a call to approach Liz, which was interesting because Maria was thinking about maybe they talk to Venus, but they clearly, if you talk about someone that really has been floundering this whole game and just that hasn't found a home, it's Venus. Like, she's been on her own island, even at this point where they're like, we can't trust her, we can't work with her, kind of thing, is the vibe she's
Yeah.
giving off. And they end up going to the person who had this big issue about Applebee's with Q. His game is in her hands rather than the person like Venus who's sitting in the middle there, which was quite interesting. What did you think of this conversation and Charlie's read, which ended up being the correct read here on who they should have approached?
Yeah, I mean, great move from Charlie. Like to be able to like, I think I would have been in Maria's position. I was like, did you see like the screaming? I don't know
Mm.
if she's like she's not here. Like we can't work with this person. Like
Too
she's
emotional.
broken. Yeah, she's broken. She's a broken human being. I don't know how reliable that is. But then you've got Q on the other hand as well. So like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a tough position to be in. It seems like you know, they're the only sane people in a group of crazies, but and you have to kind of pick what's the worst thing that will burn us the least. Is it going to be Liz? Is it Venus who's completely unreliable? Is it Q? We're working with Q who's completely unreliable in order to get out the other people who are slightly competent in Tiff. The only normal people will get rid of them and just be surrounded by the people that are all the wackadoos. But I mean, great read from Charlie to be able to see that. I wouldn't have seen Liz looking through the emotions and the starvation and the hurt to be able to not vote for Q. Like all the confessionals that were giving us was that this is my personal vendetta. Like he blew up my spot. He didn't give me
Yeah.
food. Like I was like, there's no way Liz would actually turn on it. But Charlie, great read there. I don't know how. I don't know what he picked up from Liz or what conversations they had that he thinks that he can do that over a Venus. But obviously it worked. So
Yeah, no, brilliant read there. Tom says Venus has a home with me, Chris. Watch yourself. So only reason that that would even be a thing is because if Venus played with Tom, she would have been gone before the merge. She would have had even less of a home if he was to play with her because Tom's strategy is to get rid of all of the young women first, and if he does play Survivor, so I feel like she would have been in trouble, Tom, if you played together. Then we've also got Palava Girl says here, my sons are gamers. I've heard everybody curling swears out there. We've got Chris saying here, my students convinced me to play Among Us with them, and every round the gang together to vote me off first. And then Dolores also says, my nephew kept taking me out first every single time they played. Got to be careful about what I say on YouTube. But yeah, gamers are intense and things get pretty heated. And now imagine having like they should. Have they ever thought about creating like a reality TV show around video gamers? Because I feel like it would get spicy. Like, can you imagine the swearing and like competitive video gaming?
Yeah, I don't know if they could have
it would have to be on MTV. It wouldn't be on or
if you
Paramount.
just listen to an Xbox Live conversation for an hour, you'd know it would never make it on TV.
Yeah.
The
Get canceled.
racism, the homophobia, the everything that gets thrown out when you have the veil of anonymity over the internet, like it's pretty scary.
Yeah. But to be honest, that's the internet in general, not just gaming. Like, people feel brave behind a keyboard sometimes and say dumb stuff. Okay, so we do end up going to Tribal Council. At Tribal Council, I thought Jeff was being kind to Tiff. He was really trying to get Tiff to play that idol. He was like laying it on thick the whole time. Is Q being a smokescreen again? Yeah, but everybody thought Q wasn't last time as well. Tiff, how do you feel? I feel like he pointed and he couldn't have made it more obvious to Tiff. Tiff, play your idol. Like this Tribal Council. If you're reading the host, if you're reading production, how did she miss this with the way that Jeff was leading the conversation? Because if I was there, I would have been super paranoid because of what he was saying. And that Jeff's he's in on the goss. He knows what's happening.
Blinded by Q, man. Like Q is a smokescreen to the point where you can't see anything else that's going on.
Yeah, but Jeff kept telling her this.
Yeah.
He kept telling her, like, remember, people thought he wasn't going home last time as well. He was a smokescreen last time as well. I just don't know how he didn't, how he didn't, or she, how she didn't pick up on that little bit there. And yeah, it was interesting to see. I think that the cast did a good job, and they always do in regards to creating that doubt as well. Like, no, it's just very obvious this time. We're definitely taking out Q was the easiest conversation, but I feel like that would have made. I'm a paranoid person by nature. If it comes to playing a game like that, I'd be like, nah, they're out to get me. They're out to get me. They're saying it's not going to be Q, and it's such an easy vote. It means it's definitely not an easy vote. I don't know. I was a bit amazed. I was personally, and it is obviously a lot harder when you're playing the game, but I thought that. What made the edit, Jeff made it pretty clear that something was coming. Reality Realness here says all 3 idol holders went home with it in their pocket. Wild. And I don't know what that says about Survivor in the US at the moment, because I feel like in Australian Survivor, idols are played a lot more and it's played a lot more successfully. And the people who get the idols have got better reads, like strategically in the game. But it's people in the US Survivor seasons recently, it's like deer in headlights.
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe again, if I was to squint and give credit, and try to make a good spin on it, maybe the blind sides are stronger. Tiff was blindsided. They really convinced her that it was going to be Q. Charlie played it perfectly in last week as well when Hunter looked at his face and said, isn't it? He's like, you're right. It's okay. Don't worry about it. And maybe the gameplay is a lot more subtle to the point where they can actually trick these people into keeping the idol in their pocket,
Yeah. For me, it's like, what's the damage in someone like Tiff going and saying, I'm going to play my shot in the dark as a freebie because everybody's voting for Q in any case.
Yep.
Let's just be safe. Have that extra level of security where potentially it says, I'm safe. If you're not safe, it buys you time, read the room, decide, do I now need to double down and play my idol? But you've got a shot in the dark in your pocket. Why not at least play that bad boy? You know your vote's not needed on this one. Try and guarantee some safety via that, buy some time, or then play the idol afterwards if the shot in the dark doesn't work. It just feels like more should have been done in this moment compared to what was done by her. And she should have realized, like she correctly read herself, and she said, my survivor rule was if anybody knew I had an idol, I have to play it. And she didn't follow her own rules. She just got greedy.
Yep. That's what it is. It's greed, like wanting to, and same as Hunter, thinking he can keep it in his pocket and get another week out of it. But like, as much as your reads are of the tribe and how Q is seen by the rest of them, and thinking that it's universal or a unanimous vote, when you're just thinking pure, like, we're at 8 and I have an idol, like, that's not looking good. Like, people, I'm not with Maria and Charlie necessarily. Like, I know we're all sort of together in our dislike for Q, which was obviously a misread from Tiff, but just purely based on numbers and where you are in the game, that idol has got to be so scary to people. You have to know that you're a target. Like, she said it last week. She said, I'm going to use it because I know, but like, take the risk. Like, even if you use it and burn it and it's a misplay, like, at least you're safe, you know?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that I just thought about. And Darren's going down that same line of thinking with the beware advantage being mostly public because you have to tell someone that you lost your vote. So obviously that means that people have got knowledge of where the idols are a lot quicker, which makes them less dangerous. And then the other part of this that I was just thinking about is that maybe in Australian Survivor, like, Gabe says, US players want to hold them for longer possible for themselves. I feel since most are fans. If we think about it in the opposite way, in Australian Survivor, it's the old school idol where you play it, it gets hidden immediately, and you go search for it again. In Survivor US, if you play it and you play it incorrectly, you don't know what challenge you're going to have to do next to get an idol. You may have to get on a boat. There may not be something on the island. You don't know if the beware advantage is going to ask you to go do 2 or 3 side quests instead of the main quest of getting to the end and winning the season to be able to get an idol. There's just too much complexity around idols, I think, that has made players more reluctant to play it, because when you've got it, you're like, damn, I'm lucky to have one. If I play this, it's not easy to get one again. Where in Australian Survivor, which has got that classic theme, people do bombastic moves with idols and they're not afraid to use the bullets that are in their gun because they know they're going to get another shot. If they're good at finding idols, they're probably likely to find one again. So I feel like, again, when we think about this, adding too much complexity to the way that these game mechanics work actually takes away from gameplay and from loosey-goosey, let's use the things at our disposal, I feel like, almost to a certain degree. I don't know if you agree with that, but I think that could be another reason why people struggle.
Yeah, when something is so hard to come by, it increases the value, right? Like, that's scarcity is value. And when you know that you can't just go around and find another one tomorrow, that I might have to do some massive thing and remember a weird phrase to drop at tribal at on the mat at challenge, like that was in previous seasons, they have to come up with some catchphrase, like, what the hell, like, all that stuff. Maybe you go, well, this isn't coming again, it's so hard to get, I kind of have to look after it. But
these players, like, with all the beware advantages out there, Kahuna, these players are as confused as a goat on AstroTurf, basically. That is the phrase that was used. So they're very confused by all of this.
Chantel from Reality Realist said it really good. I think that in Australia they use idols for strategy and advancing the game. You said they use it as a weapon almost, whereas in the US they use it to keep them safe, and it's so much more restricted in what you can do there. Like, if you're just using it as a shield,
comes to the scarcity. It's the scarcity thing, because you've got the luxury to use it as a weapon, as a strategic game move, when you know that it's going to get hidden again and it's not going to require you to get on a boat at the right time to get an idol, or require you to do 2 or 3 steps before the idol unlocks and it's got its full power. Plus you have the risk of not having a vote while having to unlock the idol. So there's just too much consequences to almost playing an idol. Like I feel like with the new mechanics and the way that it works, I feel like we're really onto something here. I don't know if people
Yeah.
agree with us in the live, but yeah, it's just too much unknowns. Like Kiwi Skirt says here, Dolores also thinks that Jeff is not going to change the norm lately. So I can see them not re-hiding the idol. Palavigal says, that's amazing. Yes, ma'am, you did. Mine has great. Okay, it's a personal one. Darren saying taking votes away is taking away gameplay. That's the main problem with US right now. Totally agree. That's the vote thing is another thing that adds complexity to it. And then Nunes says exactly, Kuna, none of those wacky advantages and idols, these parts, past couple of weeks, but much better tribals. Jeff should pay attention for season 47. Yeah, I think very interesting. There's obviously we do end up seeing Tiff go home here. We are getting close to the pointy end. How many episodes normally in the season? Like 13 or something like that? I feel like we can
13,
12 or 13, yeah. So we're 10 episodes down now, so things are going to speed up very quickly towards the end here. We spoke a little bit about our hot favorites, I guess, to win the season, and it seems like both of us are aligned. Who's the player at the moment that would make you pissed if they got voted out? Kahuna, who's the player you're putting your flag behind? You're like, I'm this person, ride or die to the end. Do you have one? I finally have two that I can choose between.
No, I don't have anyone. I don't. As far as being disappointed if they left, I was actually. I don't know why. Like, you know how some people make these decisions. You pick your person, and it's not really based on anything. You just get a vibe or a feeling or whatever. But I had Tiff. I wanted Tiff to win. I thought she felt the most normal, I guess, especially in that early half of the season where we just got Yanu so much. Like, it was all purple all the time, because of the Banu experience. But I like Tiff, and I really bonded with Tiff. I thought she was going to go far. As far as who I'd be pissed if they were gone, even Q, I wouldn't be pissed. I'm like, yeah, he kind of deserves it. Liz, Venus, like whatever.
Yeah, I'd still be pissed.
I think Charlie and Maria, because they do seem the most playing the game, they're the only ones left that are actually like competent at Survivor. I would be angry if they were gone. But as far as who I'm going for, who I'd want to win from here, like between Charlie and Maria, if I was to pick between the young Harvard kid or the immigrant mother, I'm picking Maria. Like, you know,
look at you.
Charlie's gonna be fine. Like, I'd rather give the $1 million to the immigrant mom. Like, that's who I'd go with. You know?
So for me, the fact that she's an immigrant mom, older, playing the game has nothing to do with it. But I would go for her based on the fact that I've really enjoyed her. Like, she's one of the two people. Now that she's going to become a villain, I'm going to enjoy her even more because I love villains. So immediately she's like, team villain. She's in my team. I'm shouting for her to the end. And like between Q's got my. He's my team TV this season. So if he leaves from a team TV perspective, the show's going to get a lot more dull and boring for me, which I'll be disappointed about. But if I have to give credit where it's due for someone that's actually playing the game well, and both of them are two players that I kind of really enjoy at the moment, I'd have to put Maria probably in my number one. Nothing to do with the fact that she's older and an immigrant, just based on the fact that she's awesome. You know, like for me personally. But I can see how that's just the bonus. The fact that, you know, she's obviously, you know, I don't know her backstory that well, but she's obviously had to go through her own struggle to get into America and all that kind of stuff. It's not easy. As an immigrant myself, I know moving to another country, starting life over and stuff like that, it's not easy. So if it helps her and it gets her across the line, that's amazing as well, you know, and so forth. But yeah, great season ahead. I can't wait to see how it's going to play out. Let's see who other people are rooting for at the moment in the game. We've got Reality Real saying, how do you think old school players would fare in the new school game? Just thinking about how 50 will play out. I think old school will still kick new school's ass because I just think that there are, again, we spoke about this earlier on the podcast where, especially if they bring back legendary players with experience of having played Survivor and have played more than once, I feel like new school is going to go up against that experience and going to struggle. And I just don't think that they breed them the same anymore. Like the players. Like, I just don't think these players have got the same grit and determination as the old school players. I really don't. So unless they're like if you go old school, like an Ethan Zahn or something like that, I think he felt out of place even when he played Winners of War. That's different. I think Lex could adapt to a newer game. Like, I think he's savvy enough. He was a good enough game player back in the day to do that. There's certain old school player. It does depend on the old school player. Like, I think certain old school from that first 10 seasons who were not really game savvy players. If we're going back that far, there's definitely a few that would struggle. But I can even see someone like Rob Sisternino coming back. Rob C could come back and play really well in a new school season, even though there is a lot of randomness to it. And I think that's what Reality Realness is alluding to, is the random, randomness of the game. Like, you choose to go on the boat at the wrong time, you lose your vote, you're in trouble.
And what about things like the 3 tribes, small tribe, pacing 26 days versus 39? Like, you have to do things a lot faster in a lot smaller timeline. You can't lay back as much. There's nowhere to hide, especially with bigger characters. They could like stand out a little bit more. I think it will add a level of complexity that they're not used to. But like you said, if they're 2-3 seasons in and have that experience, I'd still back the old school, but I think the new game adds so much randomness. Like you said, it's too hard to predict for a person that
very hard
thinks
to
about
predict. Yeah,
logically. Yeah,
it's definitely an equalizer when it comes to it. Gabe says top 3 to win are Kenzie, Charlie, and Maria by cheering for Don't Really Care. By cheering for Don't Really Care. Richard saying Q needs to go and my queen Maria needs to win at all cost. So Richard fully in on Maria. Nunez saying, do you think season 50 will be 26 weeks or 39 days? Any chance they have more than 18 survivors? I think they're going to stick to 26. I really hope they do go back to 39 for season 50 and just do a classic season. But
Jeff's not doing an extra 2 weeks out there.
Nah, he's getting paid like he's like Tony. He's working out his work weeks while he's out on Survivor playing the game, and he's now got less work weeks, getting paid the same amount of money. So he's gotten a promotion. He's not wanting to go back and do more work. Richard also says Loki has an impressive Liz. Loki has an impressive resume. I don't know. Like, I mean, she's always been like, she's been in on some of the votes. She's been on out of some of the votes, but I don't feel like she's ever really run the direction of the game personally. So I don't see it.
Well, she talked about this episode, why she was so upset at the start of the episode was like, I don't know why you didn't think you could not include me in that vote for Hunter, like last week. Like, she was crying about that to begin with, before even the food issue. She was upset that she was left out of the vote last week. And this week she was in, like, when you say resume, she's involved in some of the moves, but like you said, she's not driving them. Charlie and Maria dragged her in this week and approached her. The time that she actually did come up with the idea and claimed that it was Tevin that was doing all the string pulling behind the scenes. So I don't think anyone else on the island will see it that way.
Yeah, I don't see it either. Palava Gill says, I'm nervous about remaining episodes. Elated if Charlie's separated from Maria and get to the final with Venus and Kenzie. No Maria for me. Apologies. That's fair. Everybody's got their own favorites. That's what makes Survivor great. Dolores is with us as well. Let's see a few more comments here. Gabe says, Chris, I'm sorry, buddy. Got to be realistic. I don't remember what that was referring to. Sean Richter and Dreams, please. I want to see Sean Richter come back as well. I reckon he was a fun character. He's like one of the lost characters. Do you remember Sean at all? He played with Boston Rob in this first season.
No.
Really, really fun character. Had really good confessionals. Just went lost. Never came back. But anyways, that is it for this week's coverage of Survivor. Thank you so much for everybody that jumped on the live, that took part in the conversation and asked some questions. We will be back next week to talk about episode 11. Maybe we'll have more updates on what's happening for Survivor season 50. Who knows? Like, Jeff seems to be coming in thick and fast with all of the different updates on that. So far away, so long to wait before we get to see our first returning season. But if you enjoyed this content, if you like it, if you want to help the channel grow, the best way to do so, it's absolutely free, is by subscribing to the channel. Please put a like on this, hit the notification bell so you can be informed the next time that we go live. The real big reason that we want to get the subscribers, the more people who follow the channel, the more credibility we get. So in the future, hopefully we can reach out to more Survivor players in the US and get some people to come on and be guests and things like that. It does help with credibility for sure when you've got some people following the channel. But for now, grab your torches, everybody. Head back to camp. We'll catch you guys next week. Bye.